Uncle Jason dropped the two off at a station the next day so they could take the bus to the farm. Jason advises them to think of a safe word in case they run into trouble. The catch is that each text must conclude with a code word. Stated differently, Jason requests that Katie email him a new code word each day that is listed in alphabetical order. Apple is the buzzword of the day. The two still have to wait for the bus, which is supposed to arrive in about an hour after the uncle leaves, and they choose to wait at the cafe, where they end up sharing a table with the townspeople after they instantly grab their attention. While Lucas and Jed, the two men, identify themselves as brothers. The brothers offered to drive them to their place of employment, and despite her initial reluctance, Katie eventually gives in to the silent, groaning plea. Things don't go as planned, but the two do end up getting into the young man's blue truck. Jed purposefully drives by the farm where Sloane and Katie are employed, confusing the two women. When they finally arrive, Jad and Lucas's shady mother welcomed the two women and asked if they would like to have some tea before going to the farm. After they enter, Katie's uncle, a police officer, texts her with the safe words they had decided upon. She assured him that everything was well. In the interim, the two indulged in pie and tea, both of which they really shouldn't have done. Nonetheless, they act accordingly. Anyhow, when it is discovered that there is a drug in the drinks, their website becomes hazy. The two realize something is wrong and flee for their lives right away. Regretfully, Jed and Lucas succeeded in rendering them unconscious and escorting them back inside. The following day, Katie and Sloane find themselves stranded in the middle of the forest, terrified. They will now be living here, and here, Jed informs them as he approaches them. Additionally, they are provided with necessities for survival like clothing, a bed, and a toilet. Now that Sloane and Katie are dressed, we go on to the next scene. And Boris, Jed's supervisor, arrives, grabbing Katie's phone to see if anyone has any idea where they are. He now learns that Sloane and Katie had lied to him about both their names and the code word they had used in the text message. Eventually, Sloane and Katie have to break the news to him that the word apple is a safety word. As soon as things get back on track, the town sheriff arrives brandishing his gun just as Sloane and Katie are about to take a bath in their makeshift showers. It turns out that the sheriff is a piece of shit who has come to rape one of the women and supports human trafficking. After the villainous sheriff has had enough, Sloane goes to comfort a shaken-looking Katie. Uncle Jason, who lives on the other side of town, is becoming concerned because Katie used the same safe word in her most recent text message that he received yesterday. Re-entering the forest, welcome to another customer, whom Jed and Lucas will now refer to as the Scruffy Guy. He then takes her inside the trailer after picking up the loan. It comes as no surprise that Scruffy Guy is a little crazy. Returning to the police uncle, he eventually calls Sloane and Katie's workplace and finds out that they were absent from work yesterday. Convinced that there is problem, he scrambles to find them. The next customer that arrives is even more dubious than the last, so Sloane and Katie's day is about to get much worse. The next customer comes closer, and Jed and Lucas scramble to cover their heads. Sloane is picked up by the pig mask guy and led inside the trailer. It is now Katie's turn to sue the shaken Sloane after he departs. What the pig masks did to her is unknown to us. Sloane looks to be even more traumatized than she was before. Uncle Jason encounters the town's corrupt sheriff in the following scene when he arrives at the sheriff's office. It is revealed that the uncle is more than just a police officer. He works as an FBI agent, in fact, to add even more intrigue to the storyline. For whatever reason, the FBI uncle chooses to inform the sheriff that he believes they are in serious trouble because Katie failed to include a new code word in her most recent text message. Back in the woods, it's clear that the sheriff has told the kidnappers that Katie lied to them about the safe word and that her uncle is an FBI agent in order to prevent the FBI from interfering with their human trafficking operation. The Bosporus instructs Jeff to murder them both, then, without their knowledge, dumps their bodies. Katie is listening in on the discussion. In the midst of all of this, the FBI uncle makes the decision to go to the cafe where he last left Sloane and Katie. The barista is then asked what knowledge he has. Conveniently, the barista can recall exactly what kind of truck Sloane and Katie left. The following day, Katie informs Sloane that their kidnappers intend to kill them, not long before the unkempt guy and the kidnappers showed up. Then they leave the scruffy guy watching them behind. Using this as an opportunity to entice him, Katie rips his throat with her bare teeth as soon as she gets close enough. After that, the two women manage to break free from their chains. Shortly after, the sheriff shows up, probably with the intention of killing them. However, Katie and her slowness steal his car as soon as he gets out of it. After driving back into town, the two women stop at a hardware store to get supplies. Now, some real bad is going to happen. The cashier was then asked if he knew Boris. The cashier and the man driving the blue truck are aware of his residence. Uncle Jason visits the town's auto insurance building today as he continues his investigation on the other side of town. He invents a tale about unintentionally running into a blue truck and inquires as to its owner. The Bosporus has returned home. It turns out that he was seriously injured when Katie and Sloane sneaked up on him and started throwing tennis balls with spikes. Now that things have flipped around, Boris begs to survive and even offers money in return for his life being spared. At that moment, Uncle Jason arrives at Boris's house. Once inside, Katie and Sloane start asking him who the man wearing the pig mask is. When Boris won't tell, Sloane and Katie make a makeshift spear and stab him in the back, killing him in the process. When Uncle Jason does last come inside, it looks like Sloane and Katie are gone, and he observes the dying person's side. Then Boris Jason heard the roar of passing cars and lightning outside. While Uncle Jason rushes the dying Boris to the hospital, Katie and Sloane drive off. Uncle Jason is told by the sheriff in the following scene that Boris did not make it. Uncle Jason, feeling even more anxious, tries to call Katie's phone before realizing his disguise has been exposed. The sheriff pulls a gun. We find out that the man wearing the pig mask is actually the town priest when Katie and Sloane pull up in front of a church. When Sloane enters the church, her assailant confronts her directly. The two best friends defeat the idiot with Katie's assistance. We can see that Katie and Sloane are happy and carefree as they drive off. However, when they force us to stop and get out of the vehicle, they reveal that the priest, also known as the pig mask guy, has been chained behind the truck the entire time. They doused it in gasoline and set him ablaze as their last blow before speeding away. Uncle Jason is now being held captive by the sheriff, even though the two women appear to be doing well. Worse still, the sheriff seems to have taken two more young ladies into custody. Fortunately, Sloane and Katie have arrived to save the day. After tying the sheriff up, they played Russian roulette with him to torture him. Now that we know, the two women are a little crazy. However, we can't really blame them, I suppose. The sheriff starts apologizing profusely, just before Katie gives him the ultimate blow to the head. Afterwards, Uncle Jason must be free, so Katie and Sloane set the women free. Next, Katie and Sloane visit the mother's home of Jad and Lucas, and chooses to give her the same kind of drug that she gave them a few days prior. Before taking her to the basement, where Jed is also restrained and gagged, they bind her up. The mother was made to watch as they continued to beat his head in with baseball bats. They then lead her to Lucas, who is likewise restrained to a chair. But rather than killing him, they untie him, give him a bath, and threaten to beat his own mother. Lucas expresses his disapproval, and they shoot him to death. Subsequently, the two women arranged his corpse to give the impression that he committed suicide. It is revealed that they intend to blame him for every murder. In a desperate attempt to save her life, the mother offers the money, but Katie steals the lawnmower and uses it to murder her with great brutality. In the subsequent scene, Uncle Jason arrives at Katie's residence to retrieve her and Sloane. It seems like a while has gone by when Katie and Sloane are enthusiastically driven to New York City from the airport.